So, like I promised, I would do a tutorial on how to recreate this image that I shared in the classroom. So it's an image of my wife and I in the Andes Mountains. Although I did this in Photoshop, and really it doesn't matter what software you choose, as long as the techniques are the same, you should get the same effect. And it's possible in many different pieces of software. Here I've used Photoshop, but I will show you an example how to recreate it in Pixlr. And I've shared it with many people so far, and some have not even noticed that it was edited at all. But here you can tell we are well over 20,000 feet. We're towering over the Andes Mountains, and at our knees is the whole site of Machu Picchu. So these are two original photos that I took, and I will share with you what they looked like originally. So here's the two of us sitting on a ledge. And so now it just so happened that the lighting was coming from the right and hitting us directly where I wanted us. So I was able to cut the background out of this photo and impose it onto this shot. And so that's what I'm going to share with you. I'm going to open up those photos in Pixlr. What I would like from you is to find the background image, look at the lighting, find where the source is. And that means like where's the light source? Is it the sun or a lamp or wherever that photo was taken? Identify the light source, and then take a picture of yourself to impose it. Or if you, like me, have a photo already, then that takes away from a little bit of extra work, and you can just impose it directly. I'm going to jump into Pixlr and try and show you the whole process. So here I am in Pixlr online, and it gives us create new image, open an image. So I'm going to open an image because I have these on my computer. So I'm going to open. And if I were to go to my Google Drive, my screen may look a little different than yours, depending on what kind of platform. Those of you who are in my class will be on a Chromebook platform, and I'm on a PC computer. So I'm just accessing my folders here, and I'm about to open up these photos. So I'll open up my background scene first. And the reason I do that is because I want to check the size. I want to make sure the quality is good. And often, either the picture will be too small or too big. So here, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go image size. And this is very important to check. So right now I've got 4,000 pixels wide by 3,000 pixels high. Now in my experience with Pixlr, the higher the resolution, the better it is, but at times it lags and you may lose your work. So in order to save myself some time and without straining Pixlr too much, I'm going to reduce this image, the width, to 2,000 pixels, that is, and constrain your proportions so it keeps everything proportionate. Click OK. Now my image just shrank down a bit, but that's okay. It's 2,000 pixels is still a fairly large image, especially if we're going to display it online. If it goes to print, then you definitely want higher values, and you may want to explore a little bit of those options. So File, next one, I'm going to go Layer, Open Image as Layer. So now it's going to open up the second photo in this image, and you'll notice that photo will be bigger, but we can reduce the size of it. So open image as layer. Here we are, and I'm going to open it. And yes, we did come in quite large here. So there's the whole image. So here, if I want to scale this down, I'll zoom out by going Control minus, go Edit, Free Transform, and it's very important to hold Shift as you scale down. So I'm going to scale us down, kind of get a sense to how big we want to be. Something along those lines. I'm going to hit enter to place it. So enter. But notice once you enter it, it does crop that image. You lose whatever was outside of that bounding box in the gray area here. So be careful when you go to place an image not to lose too much information. There may be other ways around it, but this is my technique here. So now I'm going to click the toggle layer settings and adjust my opacity, because I want to see where we're going to end up being, and I may just adjust the size again. So here I'm going to place Linda in between the mountains, and I'm going to be sort of climbing over them. That looks about like the position that I had. I'll zoom in so you see what I'm talking about. Here we go. I'm quite happy with that. And I often pull the layers panel over and I expand it because I like having a little more space. If there's anything in the way, you can move these tabs around. And I'm going to turn the opacity back up. And this is the part where you can start erasing that photo. So for large areas, I would suggest using the lasso tool. And so I'm going to go around here. And I'm just going to try and capture big areas and just hit backspace. So I'm physically deleting the content. Oh, and if you go over an area, you can undo by going Control Z. So this might take me a little while. I'll just cut out the outside edges here. You could use the eraser tool too. I like using the lasso, especially to cut out quick and dirty, really. Just get rid of some content. And the more time you spend doing this, the better your end result will be. So I'm hoping to cut this out and even add some clouds over our knees to make it really look like we were 20,000 feet tall and towering over these mountains. And the better you do, the more you can kind of like fool people to think that, whoa, were you really there? Were you really that big? It's kind of fun to see people's reactions. So here I'm just talking away and trying to knock things out. And you really don't have to pay attention to too much detail here. The only thing you do have to pay attention is not to cut out areas you want to keep. So now this is, and it's still movable, okay? As long as you've got your layers, which I lost. So if I want to see my layers come back, I go to View, Layers. There they are. I'll pull them back over there. That is still, if you use the Move tool, I can still move it around, and it picks up on some of the extra content. So if I'm picky, I can get rid of that. I'm going to use the rectangle selection tool here. And hit backspace. To get rid of those marching ants, it's Control D. Get rid of it here, Control D. Use my Move tool again. And just to clean that up, I'm going to get rid of that, Control D. And I can sort of position us here. And again, I'll use that same trick with the opacity. And to get that, again, it's in Toggle Layer Settings. Okay, so I want to fake it like Linda's behind those mountains. Good. Back to 100. Now is the part where I zoom in and I start cutting out areas. So I'll start over here and then I'll move over into the hair and kind of describe what I would do there. So I'll use the eraser, and I like to use a feathered edge. So I'll start with something like this, and then I'll adjust the hardness. So I like using a little bit of a feathered edge, but not too much, because nothing you ever see is ever crisp. So I'm just going to go around the edges here. And notice if I click and hold shift and click again, it follows a path. And so that's what I tend to do. You can just click and drag and the brush will follow your cursor. You pick what you like. You can do it either way. I like clicking, holding shift, and then just slowly making my way around objects. So here, don't be afraid to cut out certain parts, especially with the hair. I can always add more hair later. And in fact, I'm going to demonstrate that part. So here I'm going to finish cutting that. And this is where it takes time, okay? So I'm going to go over here. So now Linda's got hair coming all over the place and going in different directions. So I'm going to delete part of that hair. Okay. And then I'll resort to the lasso tool to get rid of big chunks. Backspace. Okay. And because I'm trying to do a good job and a demonstration here, I'll try to do a little more than just go fast. And if you would like to, you can fast forward the film or the video, and you can go ahead and see what the end result looks like later. But it will take a bit of time to get this all done. So here I'm actually going to cut out some of those strands of hair coming off of her neck. And this is where I zoom in, Control plus. And click, hold shift again, and then I just kind of follow the edge of her shoulders. And the feathered edge will do a really good job of feathering the edge of her shoulder, so it doesn't look cut out. That's the idea here. Even here, I'm going to adjust my brush size, the diameter, too small. There, somewhere along those lines. And I'm noticing my brows are starting to lag. So if you notice that, then I would suggest to save. So go File, Save, and here, because we're doing an edit and we're still working at it, I want to name it. So I'm going to call this. Let's put Machu Picchu, and I want it to be a PXD file because it's a layered file. So that way I can go back and edit it later. So if I do lose the work, I can always go back and fix it up. So I'm going to click OK, and I will save it to my drive. I'm using FileStream at the moment, and it acts like a hard drive. So I'm organizing it into my Google Drive. So you put it wherever you want. Make sure you remember where it is. And I have a Pixlr folder with a Machu Picchu PXD. And I'm going to click Save. It's going to ask me to replace. Yep. So I know it's saved because it says Machu Picchu as the title above here. Zoom out. So you can see with lots of time, you can make it look good. So I'm going to zoom back in. Erase some more here. But the idea here is once you've got a general shape erased, I'm going to fix up this corner. And I'm going to try just typing in a value here, 15, hit enter. There, that's a nice way to adjust the brush size. If you have a more intuitive way, again, it's all personal preference. I'm going to try 5, hit enter. If you were using Photoshop, there are nice keyboard shortcuts, or a stylus can adjust the brush size on the fly with pressure sensitivity. So now here, I'm going to use the pencil and going to draw in some extra strands of hair. And this is my own technique. Make sure it's set to sketchy using the pencil tool. And I like using the color picker tool to select different areas of the hair so it looks more natural. So I got like a dark grayish brown or black. And now that one's too big. So I'm going to undo that. Adjust my brush size to 1. Undo. I don't like that because it's too dark. I'm going to go with the light beige. And this might work better with a larger image because now my brush is looking a bit big for this effect. Usually when I do this, I work on the original image size, image source. So maybe what I should have done here is, before bringing in the picture of us, I should have edited it at its original size. Still doable. Instead, maybe what I'll do is I'll go plain, and I can do little strands. So here, because I have a stylus, I can do little strands of hair poking out. And again, this takes time. So that's the part that you would spend most of your time doing. I'm going to use the eyedropper tool, find the grayish color. I can play around with these too. I can use ink, sketch. I like using sketchy, and I may just open up another file to show you an example. But for now, I'll do plain. But even just a few little strands. Zoomed in is always tricky, but as soon as I zoom out, it simulates like little strands of hair. And I've got another tutorial simply on cutting out hair and doing exactly what I'm talking about here. So please follow that tutorial to have a more in-depth tutorial and guided lesson on how to do this. I'm not quite thrilled about this example that I'm showing you at the moment. So please follow that, and I will concentrate on cutting out the rest here. And I'll return and see you as soon as I'm finished cutting everything out, and then I'll show you how to add in clouds, shadows, all the rest. So thanks. I'll talk to you in a few minutes here. Okay, so I'm back, and here I've just completed cutting out everything, and took my time, made sure to add lots of detail in Linda's hair. I've got detail in mine. I really took my time. I made sure to cut out every area of the photo, even to the point where it's not perfect, but where my pants here follow the edges of the city, and same with Linda's. So you have to take a little bit of creative freedom here. I just cut away part of the pants to make it look like over her, so it creates a bit of depth. But there you go. Instead of watching me cut everything out, this is the completed one. I've got one more step. I want to add clouds. So I've saved clouds already, but what I did is I just went to Google, typed in clouds, and if you type in cloud PNG, here it comes up right away. PNG images are images with a transparent background. If you find cloud images that you like, for example, maybe these ones here, or here, I'll just pick something that I like. Here's a nice example. So if I like this cloud, I'm going to right click, save the image as. It is a PNG image, perfect, it's exactly what I want. I'm going to put in my downloads and save it. So if I want to bring that into my Pixlr file, I'm going to make a new layer, click on the new layer icon, and type in clouds. Okay, very important to name your files. Layer, open image as layer, and go to my downloads. Oh boy, I've got lots of stuff. Okay, find my cloud. Here it is. So there's a nice, like if I wanted this whole area to be cloudy, I could add that cloud, and it pulls in nice transparencies. But I want to make this smaller, so I'm going to go Edit, Free Transform. I can hold Shift, and I can make the clouds go a bit smaller, and I could have them kind of tower over the city here. And because there were clouds in that area, that's why I'm planning on doing this here. So in fact, I'm gonna hit enter. I've got clouds there. And if I take away ourselves and the clouds, see there were clouds there already, and then we were covering them. But those clouds are a little bit like not as opaque. So I'm going to bring this back in. Click on these clouds here. Well, that's an empty layer, so I'm going to delete it and name that clouds. So it doesn't confuse anyone. Clouds. And turn the opacity down a little bit. Maybe 80% looks good. It's kind of see-through. And just be mindful where you place things. So try. So maybe those clouds would be about there, and I might want to put them underneath us. But then it starts to look weird. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to erase part of this here. So I'm going to zoom in. And I want the clouds to go in between Linda's legs here. So I could just, in fact, erase part of those clouds. And I can do two things. I can erase it, or I can control click on the layer. So I've got our selection, and I could delete. If I hit delete, oh, that deletes my picture. But if I go into the cloud layer and hit delete, Control D to deselect, oh, sometimes. So if I go Control D is deselect, or edit, deselect all. If I zoom out, then I just cut out those clouds, and those clouds are now a custom shape. But that's just an option that you could do. I'm going to undo one more time. Get rid of those marching ants, Control D. But the easiest way is just to move them around, cut them, see where it fits. I may want these clouds to be just behind us, like this. And then I could put those clouds in behind us. And that might be a little more realistic. See, I could position them wherever I want. Maybe back there. Kind of like it here because the clouds do tend to go between those mountains. But at times I like to bring it over and create depth. So here, I have a bit of clouds over Linda's leg, on her arm. And I might just delete and erase parts of these clouds. So I'm going to use the eraser, make it much larger with a big feathered edge. And I'm going to erase part of those clouds here. And it's quite easy. And use your creative freedom to erase and delete areas that you think wouldn't fit. So there you go. That's my solution. And when you're done, you can save it by going File, Save. I would save a JPEG image of this, so I will go ahead and do that. Save. Make sure to save it in the right location. I'm going to go to my drive. And okay, Pixlr, I'm going to put it in that folder. So the JPEG, save. And then one last step, save it as a PXD because you might want to go and edit it again. So save it again. And instead of saving it as a JPEG to submit, you would save it as a PXD because that's your layered file. And you can open that up next year. You can open it up tomorrow, whenever you want. And you'll always keep your layers. So that's called Machu Picchu PXD file. And I'm going to save. Yes, replace. Now I've got a really cool image to share with my friends, to post online, to make people really think, and potentially do some great work and some photo compositing. So thanks for staying tuned in for this, and we'll do some sweet things coming up. Take care, and thanks a lot.